What's up?
Okay. Hey girl, hey. So I'm Ashley Harlan. I am a fractional CFO, which is just a really fancy way of saying that I am the strategic financial partner of my CEO clients. I run the Concierge CFO. We are a fractional boutique firm. So we really help our clients build and grow their businesses. So helping them think through, okay, where are they at today? Where do they want to be in the future? So not just a year from now, but 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And then what plan do we need to put in place from a financial standpoint to help them map out how to get to whatever that ultimate vision is for themselves. So that's where we come in. We help them think about the future. And then we also support them with a past in a way as well. So we have a bookkeeping team that will help them understand their financial reports and understand their analytics and their KPIs and all of those key performance indicators that help drive that growth that they then come and have the discussion with me about.
Love it, love it. So your target audience right now are therapy practice owners. Is that the appropriate way to describe your audience? If not,
Yeah,
correct me.
so they are group therapy practice owners. So that means that they typically have more than, for our services, they need to have at least 5 clinicians that are working underneath them. So mid-size group therapy practice owners up to a larger size. So maybe they have 20 plus clinicians in private practice, and we are helping them think through how they want to continue to grow and scale their practice by whatever business model they may want to look at, whatever the practice owners, whatever their intent is. I always like to remind our business owners, our practice owners, whoever is on listening to this podcast today, I want you guys to remember that your business is typically the number one asset on your personal balance sheet. So most business owners, when you look at their net worth, 80% of their net worth is within their business. So it is a very key driver of wealth generation, especially for those of us who come from underserved and underrepresented what word am I trying to say?
Families,
legacy, demographics, or whatever. So as you think about building your business, is really critical to think about it not only as something that's cash flowing money for you today, but how it can help to increase your net worth in the future.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask a clarifying question before we have a little bit of fun, and then we're going to get back to the business. So just to clarify, you mentioned that you are fractional CFO. For those of us that are not familiar with that term, what does that mean?
Part-time. It is a very fancy word of saying that I work with my CEOs on a part-time basis. So when you come from a big corporation, all of them typically have a CFO. They are the right-hand man or woman to the CEO. And so I am that, but I'm that on a part-time basis. So I have multiple clients that I serve in that role for instead of working for one specific business.
So I could say outsource. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, some people say outsource, fractional, virtual, because I see all of my clients in a virtual capacity. I don't really see anyone in person. So yeah, there's different words that are used interchangeably to describe what we do, but yeah, fractional, outsourced.
Okay, good. Love it. Okay. So let's have a little bit of fun. So this is Take Flight. My life is about living for a living. That's my motto, my theme, and travel is life. So if money was no object for you, you could fly out immediately. What's the dream destination?
Ooh. That is a great question. I feel like I could have been prepped better for this question.
It's okay. You can go. I mean, listen, you can only pick one. You can only pick one.
Only pick one. That's the thing. That's what makes it hard. It's not like where you want to go. It's like, what's that one place that you would love to be able to go to? Oh, we'll say the Maldives.
Okay, like it. I'm not as surprised. I feel like if money was no object, a lot of people would go there. So fair enough.
Yeah.
For real, for real. Yeah. It's beautiful, but it's expensive. So
correct.
I get it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like to take the audience back through the journey of my business besties, much like I did in my book, Don't Let Your Mouth Get You in Trouble, How to Get Out of Your Own Way and Execute. I really walk people through just various different aspects of life and stories that really impacted me on a personal and professional way in order to really make me who I am today. So let's start when you were little. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be a financial planner.
Really?
I did.
And you became that?
And I became that.
Wow. Okay.
I know,
a unicorn.
right?
A unicorn. Got it.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so wild. My parents will tell you from a very, very young age, like I've always had this draw to money, understanding how it works. I was just always very fascinated with it. They would literally take me to like Books A Million and Barnes and Noble and let me go wild. And I would be in the personal finance section, you know. I'm 12 or 13. I should have been in like the teen section, right? Trying to read me some little love stories. I'm over here reading Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman at the time. And I would make my mama watch Susie Orman's show that came on Saturday. Like that would be what we would do. We would sit there and we would watch those shows. And so it is always.
Wow. This is exactly who you were supposed to be.
Yes, wow. Always been my thing.
That is crazy. I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So again, we have taken flight. We are at a cruising altitude. I'm in first class. I will believe that you are too, because you're here with me. We business.
Oh, you know it.
We're in business class. I just ordered my whiskey on ice. You are sitting across from me. And so there is someone sitting next to you. You could be sitting next to anybody, right? Dead or alive, who would you choose to be sitting next to you? And what would you ask them?
Ooh.
It's a long flight. You're going east or west coast, so you got time.
Oh, gosh. So this may be an unusual person, but I think I would want to sit beside Mark Cuban.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. Wow. I love his story. I love the evolution of who he is as a business owner. I love listening to him on podcasts. As you know, I am a huge basketball fan. And so learning about how he has leveraged being the owner of his team, how he, on a podcast, he was talking about how he realized what his strengths and his weaknesses were in the atmosphere, like the culture of the Dallas Mavericks, and how he needed to bring in someone with a diverse background that was able to help him see his blind spots. And how, you know, building the Mavericks up and making money from that and being on Shark Tank. And now he has like a whole pharmaceutical company that he's done something that no one else seems to be able to do, with being able to give prescriptions for a very, very low cost to people, right? So his story is one of, yes, he is a privileged white man in America who has had a lot of opportunities, but someone who doesn't come off to me is like an asshole, right? Like he's made his money, he's made mistakes, but he gives back and he's looking for ways to continue to leverage the money that he's made to make more money, and not do it in a way that feels icky and feels like out of integrity, right? And unethical. And so I would just love to ask him questions about, the challenges he ran into and the failures, the things that we don't see,
Right.
the advice he would give along the journey, and who mentored him, who was able to help be kind of his rabbit or his North Star. So those are the types of things I would ask him if we were on a flight together.
Oh, I love that. I love the answer. I also love the questions that you mentioned. One thing you said though was about some of the failures that he had. So we'd love to know, what is like a business idea that you tried it and it just didn't work out?
Well, the first time I attempted to be a financial planner, I fell flat on my face. It is, I call it my McDonald's story. I was a planner. I was young. I was probably 2 years out of college. So what, 25, 26, something like that. I had gone to work for a firm that their ideal client was a very wealthy white couple. And I'm a Black girl from a small town in Colombia. I did not have the network to be able to be successful, but I tried and I was failing horrifically. I was taking insurance out on myself to pay, to get a commission check to pay my bills. I had moved home with my parents. I was living with my parents and I had maxed out all my credit cards.
Wow.
I had $0 to my name, but I call it my McDonald's story because McDonald's was the place that I realized I was dead ass broke because I had ordered off the dollar menu. And at that point in time, the dollar menu was like actually $1 and it was like $1.09 with tax. And I remember sitting in the line because it was a long line to get my food. And something told me to check my bank account and I was overdrafted. So there was like no money. If I was going to swipe my card for $1.09, it was going to decline. Yeah. And because of the time, we still were carrying cash a lot more. So I scraped up $1.09 in coins to pay for my Mac chicken at McDonald's because that's all that I had. I paid the girl in coins. And I remember driving off, I was eating my Mac chicken in tears at the same time. And I had to tell my parents because I was living with them. They had no clue how bad the situation was. And I had to have a conversation with them that night about me not having any money. And that was very different for them because I had always pretty much been self-sufficient since I graduated from high school. And so that was probably the biggest failure that I had this dream of being a planner and I struck out to do it and I didn't make any money and had to go and get a bailout from mama and daddy. I was grateful that they were able to do it. Yeah. But it definitely scarred me for a very long time and had me thinking that I was not cut out to be an entrepreneur.
Wow. So I don't know if you tell this story ever publicly or when you give keynotes, because you're going to be speaking on stages around the world, this absolutely has to be the story. Yeah. You have to tell the story. Make a pen. Go ahead and write that down. Put a note.
I am. Thank you. I know you're going to remind me.
This is it. So yeah, you said something, man, I could go so many places with this. Okay. So you just said something though about the family and the bailout, and a lot of times in entrepreneurship, people speak about the support they're not seeing with their family, with their friends. And I can recognize, even if I didn't know you well, that the line of business that you are in would more than likely not necessarily be a business in which your family could actually truly support from the normal sense, right? Yeah. So I talk about this in my book of just support looks different in a lot of ways. The way in which people support us, is really kind of depending on what seat they are on the bus for us. And it may not be financially, it may not be a financial contribution or a purchasing of something. So can you talk about, for your line of business, just from your experience, the support you've gotten, how has it looked and how important has that been for you, whether tangible or intangible?
Yeah, the support, like my personal board of directors is what I call them today. Like I would not be running my business, and it wouldn't be at the level of success that it's at if I didn't have them. Starting out with, I have amazing parents who have always believed in whatever dreams I've had. Their key requirement was that you try it and you see it through. If it fails, cool, but don't quit prematurely. But even financially, they have been very supportive. Like my mama still sends me cash out every single month, like just a pour back into you, Ashley, as you're growing your business. My daddy cuts my grass for me for free. You know, he does little things around the house that I typically would have to pay for someone to do to support me as I'm continuing to grow my business. My brother, funny enough, my brother's CFO as well in corporate. So sometimes having the ability to lean on his expertise and to get his feedback, you know, how many families have two CFOs in the family, you know, so I'm very grateful for that. You and some of my other close, you know, knit friends who are there to be my sounding board, because when you run a business, I tell you all the time, you're my, you know, my team member that I can vent to, because I can't vent to my actual team sometimes, right? There's things that I need to talk through. My partner, he's very helpful, just handling my emotions sometimes and being there to uplift me as shit hits the fan and I'm having a tough week, and, you know, just putting time aside to uplift me. And then, you know, people that I don't even know. I think sometimes we forget about those like acquaintances, like those people that are a couple of degrees outside of you, but the ones who consistently like your content and share your content, or you see them out and they're like, girl, you know, I saw you got that award, you know, keep doing what you're doing. Those people fuel me as well, and their support uplifts me, because it can be a very lonely journey at times. So I'm tangible, intangible. I am fully supported. And I think that makes a huge difference in my mental state and my energetic state as I run the business.
I love that. So what are, you know, you were talking about just navigating your business. What are some myths give me 3 myths, if possible, that you would like to clear up about just owning a business in general?
3 myths. Owning a business in general. So here's one that comes to the top of my mind. When you run a business, you have 3 different roles. And I think a lot of times we focus on the practitioner or the tactician role. So whatever it is that you got into business for in the first place. So for me, fractional CFO, maybe you are a baker, you ice cream, whatever that expertise is, you get focused in on your expertise.
Right.
But there's also the CEO role where you have to think through the strategic growth of the business, the managing of the team, the managing of the finances, the sales, the marketing, the business development. But then there's a third hat that a lot of people forget about, and that's that you're an owner, right? You own a business. And so you need to make sure that you are investing time and money in getting a return off of that time and money in the business, so that you are financially sustainable, that the business is making money, that the business is going to give you a good return on your investment as the owner of the asset, which is your business. So I think that's the first myth, is that you don't get in business and get to just do the thing that you're good at. You get into business and you got to do the thing you're good at. You got to manage the business. And then you also have to think about the business from an owner standpoint to make sure that it's actually giving you a good return on your investment. So that's myth 1. Myth 2, I think that when we think about growth, we think it's going to go straight up, and it's very much like up, down, back, circles. Like you're going to want to quit this thing a lot.
Yep.
Right? You're going to want to throw in the towel and I want to say towel, like Tyrese did, throw the towel, throw the towel all the time when you are running the business. And I think there's a level of buoyancy and a level of resilience that you got to build those two muscles when you decide to run a business. I don't think we talk about that enough. Because you're gonna get knocked down. It's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and then it's gonna happen over and over and over and over. And you have to build that muscle. So I would say that's myth number 2, that it's just gonna be a straight up growth. And then probably the third thing, what would I say the third myth is? Probably that I think, at least for me, when I came into it, I had this idea that it was going to be about getting clients, right? I just need to get more clients. I need to acquire more clients. And we tend to focus on that. You see that in marketing, you see that on social media. It's all about getting money, get the clients, market the clients, do the branding, all of that. But the other side of that is retention.
Yes.
Retain the clients. And you got to have the team to support you in the retention of the clients, in the customer service, in the delivery, right? So this myth that business is all about making money, it is, but it's also about managing money, and it's about managing your clients' experience when they work with you, because you can get as many clients as you want, but if they get in the doors and you don't treat them well, or if you're not delivering on what you sold them, then you're going to lose them as quickly as you get them.
I love it. Those are great. And I think that a lot of people, no matter what type of business you're in, can really take heed to those 3 points. I'd love to hear from you about, let's dig a little deeper. I know you like to dig deep. Okay. So we got to talk about the struggle story behind the success. And so what that is looks different for a lot of people. And the struggle may not be business struggle. It may certainly be a personal struggle. But what I'm looking for and asking for is, what is a moment in time in your life that really impacted you and is ultimately going to impact the way in which you navigate business moving forward?
So I think my biggest struggle in life to this point has been the fact that I almost lost my life in 2017. So I had what's called an AVM, which is like a version of having an aneurysm. So in 2017, it was just a regular day and I had a brain bleed. I spent 7 days in ICU. I had to learn how to walk again. I had hearing issues, sight issues, and cognitive issues. So I technically am considered with having a disability because I have permanent brain damage. And so I think going through a very life-altering event where there were no signs, I was perfectly fine that morning. Nothing was wrong with me. And that night, my parents are trying to figure out in a split instance what hospitals to take me to because my brain is bleeding. And recovering from that and grappling with the fact of knowing that I do have permanent brain damage, and some of the things that I've had to do to overcome the cognitive disability that I have has been a struggle for me. But I think the acceptance of that, the grief of that has shaped my outlook on life and how I see business, how I see my life and how I want to live, right? There's certain things that I don't take for granted. There's certain things that, you know, the sun shining on my face, right? I could not handle that for almost 6 months. So like the sun is just like, oh my gosh, I bask in it anytime that I can, you know, but it just reminds you of how fragile life is. And so I think it has made me go harder in a lot of ways. It made me, the pursuit of the life that I want to live is, I'm fired up to do it. You know, it's a non-negotiable for me to live a mediocre life. Like I have to live an amazing life. And I think the patience that I had to have to go through the recovery has helped me with the patience that you have to endure when you're running a business. Because I know it's not going to be an overnight success. I know it's going to have highs and lows. I know that it's going to take me time to get the business and get my life to where I want it to be. But going through that lets me know that it's possible.
Right.
If I stay the course, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. And we all have different moments. And so your story is amazing. And so again, I can't wait to read the book. I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm just planting seeds because there's a book in all of us. So I can't wait to read the book. You are going to change lives, Ashley. So this is not the first time I've told you, but I'm saying it publicly. You're going to change lives with your story and your perseverance and just how you continue to just show up for yourself. So just know that. So I want to talk about your industry. I want to dig into your industry. And so because you are a fractional CFO and working with various different clients, you're able to have a lens and a vantage point that most people, especially CFOs, do not. Most CFOs, they're corporate CFO, they just win that one business, right? They can lean into their previous experience, but at any given time, they're really laser focused on a certain industry, certain function. So let's talk about like what trends have you seen in the industry that you're supporting as you are able to look across several different businesses in different locations. And, you know, while it's the same industry, I'm sure they're supporting even different types of clients. What are some industry standards that you've seen as it relates to money?
The biggest issue that I've seen in it, when you say a trend, probably over the last 6 months, because we have a shift happening in the overall economic atmosphere with people losing jobs and things of that nature, inflation, et cetera, is cash flow. Cash flow is always the biggest pain point for my clients. And it's really difficult sometimes to help them wrap their mind around the difference between being profitable and having cash in the bank.
Yeah.
Because typically what they're taught is to look at the profit and loss statement, which simply just tells you how much you sold, how much you spent out, and what's left over. And so they see that they're profitable, but they're like, Ash, I don't have no money. Where's the money in the bank? The money's not in the bank. And so I have we'll call it the opportunity to teach them and coach them around the redheaded stepchild of the financial statements, which is the cash statement of cash flows. And the statement of cash flows shows them where their cash is going, what cash is actually coming in the business and what cash is going out of the business. And really getting a grasp on what those two things are and how much you have left over, and looking at that trend, like each month, am I adding more cash to the bank than I'm taking away?
Right.
Do I have more months where I'm pulling more money out of the business than I'm putting in? Because if I do, that trend is showing me that I'm not doing a very great job of managing my cash. I may be profitable, but I'm not doing a good job of managing my cash. And so just getting laser focused on understanding the cash inflow and outflow of the business will keep businesses in business. Businesses don't go out of business because they're not profitable. Businesses go out of business because they run out of cash. And then, it's just it seems like it's so simple. A lot of times I think we overcomplicate the finances of the business. It is really simple. Like, are you adding more cash to the business each month than you're taking away? And if you're not, during this current economic system that we're going through with the recession or pending recession or whatever we may call it, getting access to capital is going to be tougher. Getting those credit cards are going to be tougher. Getting a line of credit is going to be tougher. Loans going to be a lot harder to get access to capital. So we got to do a better job of managing the capital that we have, that we're generating from the operations of our business. And so that's the number one trend. There's other KPIs, which are key performance indicators. There's other things that you can be focusing on. Like anyone who's listening today, if they just look at their cash and get really good at understanding when money is coming in and when money is going out, they're going to be leaps ahead of other business owners.
Sounds like you're saying that they should be a good steward of their funds. It's what it sounds like. No, so you addressed what I wanted to lean into, which is funding and capital and things like that. And so I want to know from you, if we weren't in the current financial situation that we're in, I would love to know some of the funding that's available. But before you answer that, what you just said was spot on, because I went to therapy recently, and my therapist, and I updated her about just things that are happening in my life. Also, we just had conversations about what's just happening in the climate of the world. And obviously layoffs became a conversation. And she was like, layoffs have just been really a common conversation amongst our industry, and how we are like really impacted by it. Because if a company has been funding that resource, that benefit for an employee, and now they are no longer, then what is that leave my client? And so I think, I stay with some nuggets, right? So I was thinking about this when you were talking. I'm an idea factory. There is an opportunity for you to be a consultant or to speak, and you can just be just like as a subject matter expert in this space of being able to really kind of encourage employers that in the event they have to do any type of reduction in force or layoffs, to prioritize still funding the health benefits, which covers the mental health benefits for their employees. Because I don't even think that anyone is thinking about the domino effect of that, because being laid off is already a significant traumatic experience. And you've then also taken away my resource. Yeah. So think about if you, and whoever's listening who has an expertise in this area to speak to corporate spaces on, we're going to talk to y'all about money and the importance of managing it, but also sprinkle in to the leadership, senior leaders, as you're making decisions, as you're really thinking about change management, how are the benefits going to be affected from a financial standpoint of your employees who won't even have the funds to pay for the resources they need to get through the season, right? So that was just like, when my therapist told me, I was like, I didn't even think about it. For one, because I was paying out of pocket because she was in a transition period, ironically enough. So I didn't even think about it. So I was like, well, I was going to pay you anyway. But I'm like, well, and then the fact that I am grateful that I had the funds to pay for it, right? Because on average, people are paying like at least 100, 125. I don't know. I'm sure you know the numbers as far as what people are paying per session. What's the number?
It depends upon the clinician. It depends upon their expertise. I pay my therapist $160.
Okay. So I was gonna say 150. So those numbers, right? Yeah.
Somewhere between 100 to 200 per session. So my demographic who I work with, some of them are hybrid, so they take insurance and they also do cash pay. Some only do cash pay, right? But those are the types of conversations that we're having. If you see a significant decline because your clientele may all work for one specific company, right? You may be the referred wellness or wellness expert or the therapist or whatever, and you have a significant decline in the reimbursements you get from health insurance, do we switch the model to you being cash paid? Do we switch to you doing workshops? Do we switch to you doing intensives? Right. So what ways can we think through you making up that revenue that you're going to be losing from health insurance companies? Are there other areas that we can go into to close that gap? And so those are the conversations that I'm having. And I also have other clients who work in other sectors, and they're feeling that pain as well. You know, I have a career coach who is feeling it right now because her specialty is on getting people promoted. So if your specialty is on, you know, executive coaching and preparing people for the C-suite, and now people are getting laid off, we got to change the model. We may have to change who your target person is. We may have to look at someone else who may need resume writing or coaching on how to do a job search, right? So the overall macroeconomic atmosphere impacts heavily certain sectors on the micro level, which is like your actual business, which would be what I consider the micro level.
No, definitely. No, I love that. That's dope. Because I'm sitting here thinking about this is pivoting people, right? This is the conversations that you should actually be having with yourself ahead of time, right? So we are living in uncharted territory. We are experiencing things we haven't experienced before. However, what you can do is, if you are thinking of running a business, if you have a business now and you haven't necessarily been impacted, now is the time for you to be thinking about, how will I pivot? And having a clear plan, having clear ideas on the way to do that, so that you can sustain a lot of things. We saw what the power of pivoting was when we had when the start of the pandemic, right? When people had to make a decision very quickly. And so don't wait. So that was perfect. That was awesome. So I want to go back to the question. So that I was asking you. So with your practice, so I asked you about the trends, and then additionally with the industry trends, what are some additional, like if we had a perfect economy right now?
Yeah.
Can we talk about maybe some ways in which you can secure funding that maybe people just don't, to you, it may be like common sense or some things you already know of, but what are some ways that your target audience can really get some funding that they need to run their business?
So traditional routes of funding would be looking at business credit cards, business loans, business line of credits, I really like line of credits when you can get them, because you apply for it, is there if you need it. So if you need what we call working capital, right? So if you run into a month, maybe payroll is going to be short, you have that line of credit you can tap into and then pay that line of credit back over time, instead of taking out a loan where you get one lump sum. You have that credit that you can tap into, pay it back, tap into it again, pay it back, right? So those are like your more traditional ways of getting capital. You can always look at getting investors. So you can get investors that will give you money for exchange of equity in a lot of cases. And so they can help to close some of those funding gaps, depending upon what type of model you want to have when you're growing your business. Another one that I think is slept on a lot is getting grants. There are a ton of grants out here. I have one client, I call her the grant queen, because sis has gotten over 6 figures in grant money.
I love that for her. I really do.
She does not play. And she lets us know every single time she get a grant. I love her.
I love it.
Yeah, because the type of business she has, it generates enough to cover operating expenses, but in order for her to continue to grow and scale, grant money is allowing her to be able to do that. So going after grants, being a part of accelerators that may give you some kind of, it may not necessarily be a grant, but they may have a pool of money that they only offer to people who are in that accelerator. A lot of times states have funds that you can tap into. So Tennessee has a fund, and depending upon your demographic, so they may have a fund for women. Black folks specifically, people of color, right? So having access to your state or your local funding through the government is also another way that you can get capital. And then there's other, I'm trying to think of their name, the appropriate name for them. But in Tennessee, we have these entities that partner a lot of times with the state and with the government that they don't do SBA loans, but they do specific loans for business owners where they don't have to go through as rigorous of a process of an SBA loan. So looking at your state to see what kind of outside funding capital opportunities they may have is also something that you can think through, because you're still going to be getting a loan, you're still going to be getting a line of credit, whatever options they offer, but you typically can do it with not having to pay as high of an interest rate as you would if you went the traditional bank route.
Love it. No, that's good. Thinking of money, I've been saying for a little minute, if you've been on my email list, if you follow me on social media, if you listen to the podcast, you know that I've been on big bag season for a minute. Like, God gave it to me though. He told me that it was big bag season. And so at what point, thinking about big bag season, because I know, even though you Ashley knows numbers, and a lot of times this should go right over my head, but I know she know numbers, though, right? But so it's legit. But when I think about big bag season, I think about a lot, culturally, that's like people feel like they've made it, right? So let's go there. At what point, what is the indicator for you where you're gonna feel like you've made it?
Ooh.
You not be having good questions, bro. It's me.
I want to follow up. Okay, do you mean the business revenue? Do you mean how much I'm taking home?
It's however you interpret it.
However I interpret it.
Yep. When will you know that you've made it for you? When you gonna be like, damn, I did this shit. I made it.
I feel like I made it when I have at minimum $1 million net worth.
That's fair. Okay.
That'll be the indicator to let me know that between what I own and what I owe, what's left over is $1 million, then I will feel like an actual millionaire at that point in time. And that's when I feel like, all right, I made it.
All right. I like it. I'm here for it. I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna have some brown liquor on deck with you, so it's fine.
We definitely gonna be popping bottles when that happens. Everybody flew out.
Yes, I would like the flu. Yes, absolutely. So, when we think about business in general, and you have navigated several different types of businesses, your business as it stands today has transitioned in many different ways. So you've learned a lot. Yep. What are some of like your non-negotiable business boundaries today? However many you think of it, 1 to 3, whatever number you think of. What are your non-negotiable business boundaries?
That's a great question. I think, okay. Non-negotiable business boundaries. So I don't know if I would think about it necessarily. It's like the actual boundary, but there are certain things that I know that they have to be true, right? Like I know that we have to serve our clients very well, right? I have that. If there's like
a standard of excellence,
right? Like that's one of our core values is that we are high touch, white glove with our client experience. So if it's anything that falls below what I feel like that standard is, it drives me crazy.
Okay.
Like I need you to have rapid response when I talk to my team. We need to answer questions in a simple, concise, and actionable way. If that doesn't happen, it drives me crazy, right? Seeing someone not get responded to for 3 days, it drives me crazy. So I'm very much someone who we have to serve clients well. If they leave us, they may leave us for some other things, but they won't leave us because we did not communicate with them.
Fair enough.
The other thing for me is that I want to pay people well. And if I feel like I can't pay you well, then I won't hire you, right? I like to be able to pay people above whatever the industry standard is. I want to pay people a flat rate for their efficiency, right? I'm not a huge fan of paying people hourly. I'll do it for a period of time, but I want to pay people for being really good at their jobs. So that's probably one of the other things that's like a non-negotiable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the other one, if I had to give a third one, and I think I discovered this having a conversation with you. When I think about my clients, I have to have clients who see me as their partner.
Oh, yeah.
And that are invested in their own business and want us to be intertwined into their business as well. It doesn't feel good for me if you are treating me like a vendor or just somebody that you pay to like go over your reports and put this strategy together for me. So if I feel that way and you are treating my team bad and you aren't responding, et cetera, then I got to let you go, right? And some of these things I learned by shit hitting the fan. I didn't just come up with it. It's like, okay, we had this experience. This didn't feel good to me. Now I need to make sure that I put guardrails in place to make sure that we adhere to this standard, or we don't bring on clients that are outside of, these types of characteristics.
No, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So for anyone that's in this industry, she's giving y'all game. So hopefully y'all taking notes. I want you to speak to the person that's listening, that's just starting out. They like, Ashley, I got years before I'm ready to work with you, but I'm gonna get there. But like, I'm just starting out. I'm just getting licensed. I'm ready. I'm just getting licensed, but I know I'm going to have a group practice. All that's going to happen. That's going to come together. And I'm just starting business in general. What are a few money tips you would get somebody just off basis, like foundationally? You need to have these things for whatever you're doing from a money standpoint.
A money standpoint. It's funny you say a money standpoint, because when you originally were asking the question, my mind was going to 3 foundational pieces that I always talk to my clients about when we're building their profitable practice plan that absolutely have nothing to do with money. But I have learned over time that when money is up, money is down, need to hire someone, need to fire someone, we always come back to these 3 things.
Okay, let's hear it.
And they help to determine the money piece. So the first thing is understanding your why and your vision, because whatever the why is behind you starting the practice or starting the business is the thing that is going to ground you when things aren't going the way that you want them to go and you want to quit. The why is also very much tied to what you value. So when I look at your spending, when I look at the investments and things that you want to make, when we're talking about the types of people you want to hire, I get to go back and say, okay, your why and your values are these things, and this is the vision that you said that you have for the business. Do they align? Yeah. Do they align with your spending? Do they align with this new service you want to offer? Does it align with whatever decision you're trying to make? Because that's how we make decisions. We just don't do it consciously, right? But subconsciously, that's how we make decisions, especially around money, because it's so emotional. And it's very behavior driven. It's not really the dollars and cents. It's like what's going on in your head as to how successful you're going to be. No, so understanding your why and your vision would be number one. The second thing is the business model. being really clear on the business model, because that drives the finances as well. If you're trying to see a ton of clients and you don't want to, and you want them to pay you a little bit amount of money, that business model is going to look totally different than you want to be super niche. You've gotten a lot of specializations. Maybe you do EMDR and other types of therapy, and you want to charge a higher rate for a session. You need fewer clients. Those are different business models, right? So the business model drives what type of business you build, which ultimately determines how much money you're going to make. And then the third thing is your target client, because your target client really determines the price that you can price the business model, those streams of income at.
Yeah.
If you are working with clients that can't afford your services, right? Then you're not going to be making a lot of money. You're going to be broke. So you need to be clear. And I say that especially because of the people that I serve. They're in the helping industry. They're humans helping humans. And a lot of times they have to get over the fact that there's a certain group that they may be, emotionally tied to, but they can't afford the services. And it's like, girl, you may have to work with this group over here, make the money. And as you make the money, now you can hire more clinicians so you can lower your caseload. And now you can have a set amount of clients maybe that are on a sliding scale, or maybe you just offer free therapy sessions to those people. But we can do that after we make the money over here. So that target client determines your pricing, and it determines how much money you can make in the long run. So we start with the dollars and cents a lot of times, but I try to take my clients back to the beginning and get to those foundational pieces of their practice plan and say, okay, vision and why, business model, target client. We start there.
I love that. And since you're working with like group therapy practices, because I know you personally, I know that you have an affinity for this industry as well. Can you talk about like your personal perspective of just wellness therapy and self-care for you personally, or even just the importance of it professionally?
I would not be running this business if it wasn't for my therapist. I tell
That's the sound bite, y'all. That's the sound bite.
Listen, I mean, the person that I was and the person I am today, I wouldn't have had the confidence. I wouldn't have had the emotional intelligence. I wouldn't have had the resilience and the buoyancy and the boldness and the courage that it takes to continue to put yourself out there over and over and over again to try to get clients. All of those skill sets that it takes to weather the storm of entrepreneurship, I built 8 years prior with being in therapy, just becoming a better version of myself. When I first went to therapy, nothing was going on. I just had a call from God. Like I literally woke up. He was like, you need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening in my life that prompted me to go, but I went, and I went consistently. And I can look back on certain conversations or things that she challenged me on over the years, and things that I had to work through. We talked about earlier our personal board of directors, right? The friendships that I have support me. I wouldn't have had the friendships that I have if I wouldn't have been in therapy, right? I wouldn't have learned how to resolve conflict in some ways, because you always gonna have conflict in life and in business, right? It's always something with somebody. Just understanding how to navigate emotionally choppy waters with other humans, because that's all we deal with in business is other humans. And if you can't regulate yourself, right, it's going to be really hard to run business. Eventually something is going to get the best of you. And so being in therapy has been critical in my way of living, just as Ashley, and as Ashley, the owner of the Concierge CFO.
Wow. All I'm gonna say is if anybody is listening from the American Counseling Association, you have an upcoming conference. I have your keynote speaker. For booking information, you can email me at jadadavis.com. I'll handle the rest. Now that was actually, that is exceptional because I think a lot of people probably feel the exact same way and have not found the words to articulate it. And so you were able to do that. So that's dope. Before we get out of here, I want to know, take us behind the scenes. What are some systems and processes, platforms, apps that you use to keep your business going?
Yeah, I love ClickUp.
Yes, you do.
I do. ClickUp, I just need to tag them in here so they can give your girl a
I got you. I'm definitely going to tag ClickUp. We in the commercial. Okay. Yes.
I love ClickUp for project management. It's the way that I stay in communication with my team. We can stay on task, make sure things are getting done in the business. Slack, that instant communication with team and with clients. I use Slack with my clients as well, to have an option to talk to them so they don't have to have my phone number.
Yes.
Talking about boundaries, that is a boundary for me. Don't call me. Don't text me. Because I ain't gonna answer. I got a few people I'm gonna answer the phone for, and that's it. So Slack for communication. One that I really, really like that I stumbled upon by reading this book. It's so funny, it's like literally right here. It is called Your World Class Assistant. Okay. Yeah, so for my virtual assistant, and Michael Hyatt recommends this email system called Spark. So it kind of sits on top of Gmail or G Suite. Okay. And we had the ability to communicate and kind of chat about emails without like actually having to email each other back. So there's like a little chat box at the bottom of an email. She can assign emails to me. So maybe a client responded, instead of replying all, they responded just only to her. She can assign it to me. I can see it. I can respond. So it's just a really great way. Oh, that's cool. For my assistant and I to communicate, as well as for me, because I get a lot of emails. So I can prioritize emails. I can pin emails. So it's just a good way for me to stay organized. So Spark is a great one. I think most people are familiar with either G Suite or Microsoft. Those two are always great. I'm trying to think of what else I use that a lot of business owners could use outside of.
What about for record? You record trainings and stuff, right?
Oh yes, Loom. I love Loom, especially in the type of work that I do, because it is so number heavy sometimes, and people can get lost in emails and back and forth. Being able to record a Loom video to walk someone through a financial statement or walk them through a question that they may have, they need to hear it and they don't need to be able to see it. It's just not going to hit as hard as it needs to. So Loom is a great way to do short videos to train clients and train team. And then, we're on Zoom. Zoom is that girl. I love her. And my final one, I will say, and this ties to, we talked earlier about, my cognitive abilities and with my brain bleed and things of that nature. So people who may have ADHD or have other issues cognitively with trying to stay focused and paying attention. Otter.ai has been amazing for me because it's taking the pressure off of me to try to remember every single thing that a client says in a meeting, and I don't get lost and lose focus while I'm trying to process what they're saying. So it records my meetings and does a transcription for me and highlights key components of what we talked about in that meeting. So I can go back and listen if I need to, or read the transcription to make sure that I didn't miss anything that we may have discussed. So it's a great way for me to try to stay present and in the moment and go back later. If I missed something, I can go back and review later.
That is dope. So That's ClickUp. We talk about Slack, Spark, Loom, Otter AI, and then also Spark that sits on top of like Gmail and email systems. So those will be tagged as well in the description, so you all can kind of check those out as well. Last few questions. We are, I mean, we at this point we came from DC. We halfway to the point, right? To LA.
Yeah.
What artists do you have in your travel playlist?
In my travel playlist?
You on a plane, you in first class.
Yeah.
I got brown liquor. I don't know what you're drinking, but you listening to something. It may not be music. What's on your playlist?
I'm a podcast girl, so I'm probably listening to, on the plane ride, I'm probably listening to Brene Brown, Adam Grant, or Simon Sinek, because I love listening to deep thought leaders while on the plane. And then I am probably switching to gospel at some point in time and listening to Kirk Franklin. And then if I wanted a little bit of ratchetness, I'm probably, from Tennessee. I know you are Memphis bred, but I love me some Yo Gotti. So I am going to probably be listening to Gotti at some point and throwing Beyonce in there as well. So
the queen.
Yeah, that's really,
I like that.
I'm gonna start out listening to some podcasts and I'm gonna get bored. Turn up with the Lord, then get bored, get a little ratchet, and then probably wind up Beyonce gonna be singing me to death when I wake up because I'm gonna go to sleep.
That's funny. So in closing, Ashley, how do you want to be remembered?
Ooh. Let's see. I want to be remembered as someone who was kind, compassionate, impactful, and someone who was content with the life that they lived.
I love that. That's what's up. So where can we find you? Who's your target audience? What's your call to action? Just give us everything right now.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm always playing on Twitter. So if you want to go over to Twitter and play with me a little bit, I'm over there. It's Ashley_Natrice. Instagram, I kind of give more of a behind the scenes of how I'm growing the business from my perspective, talking through challenges, the fine print of running a business on IG. So that's Ashley_Natrice. LinkedIn is my place where I try to give gems and tips and strategies for group therapy practice owners. So if you're looking more so for that, you can find me there at Ashley Harlan. And my call to action is, listen, if you are a listener and you are a group therapy practice owner, or if you know anyone in the private practice field and you think that they could benefit from having a conversation with someone that can help them think through how they can strategically grow their practice, then I am your girl and I would love to have a conversation with you. So please go to the Concierge CFO.com. And there you can find ways in which to get connected with us and get on my calendar.
I love it. This has been great. This has been so long in the making. I mean, my God.
I know, right?
It has been a long time coming, but you know what? Everything happens exactly when it's supposed to happen, in the way in which it's supposed to happen. So this has been dope. This has been amazing. And I'm glad that you came with me. I'm glad you took flight with me. And listen, y'all, listen, if you are trying to figure out what you need to do, you are in business for yourself right now. You are aspiring to be in business. You have a great idea. You don't know what to do with it. Maybe you're like already in business, want to pivot. Maybe you're at a 9 to 5 and you're like, I know I need to be doing something. This is the podcast for you. Make sure you stay tuned, stay locked in for so much more. Thank you again, Ashley, for joining me. Make sure you all tap into all of her details. They'll be in the description, and stay tuned for more, man. Until next time, later.